Hello, I'm John Grom, and welcome to our 114th Right and Left Discussion Forum. We hold our televised discussions twice monthly to demonstrate the value of civil, productive, open-minded political dialogue. Keeping in mind that we do not always agree, if we did, the discussions would not be particularly productive. Today's topic is a little bit different than what we normally do. It's not really a topic at all. It's a series of quotations. And I will read the quotation and ask the panel to identify the quoter from the list they have in front of them. You may think that's cheating, but it's not. Today's panel, beginning on my left, is Dr. Ronald Chamberlin, retired senior research chemist. On his left is Jerry Ritzman, co-founder of Ritzman Pharmacies. On his left is Patty Haskins, member of the Wadsworth City Council. And on her left is Bryan, Laubaugh, president of R&B Financial Services. Panel, if you're ready, we'll begin with the first quote. Guess who this is? Don't let anyone tell you that it's corporations and businesses that create jobs.
Hillary Clinton.
Very good, very good. I wonder why she would say a thing like that. Who does she think creates jobs, I wonder?
Well, where was she saying it?
Probably.
I mean,
It
I
was
don't
during
know.
her
I'm just-
campaign, I
I mean, no
believe.
matter where you say it, it's not true.
Yeah, but that a lot of times politicians will say different things
In different
in front
audiences.
of different groups.
Yeah. Probably at some government employee luncheon or something like that, trying to wear a different hat every time she went somewhere,
So,
Well, we all agree that she's not 100% right with that, don't we, Ron?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
98.4.
Everybody works for the government. Okay.
In one way or the other.
Okay, our next one. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work.
Bill Murray.
Thomas Jefferson.
No.
No.
Oh.
Well, we hit both. Your work is your.
Benjamin
Your
Disraeli.
work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work.
See, that
That
sounds
is
too
true.
plain for
Yeah.
Aristotle.
Benjamin Disraeli. I don't even know who that is.
If you've ever heard a speech from this guy, you would recognize that he would say something like that.
Yeah, I guess I've never heard a speech from him.
well, I'll guess Lincoln Steffens.
No, I'm going to give you a clue. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Oh, I thought it was Sir Isaac Newton when he said
Yeah.
the apple.
Apple.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs. Nobody gets that one.
He's not on
the
here.
list.
He's not on your list?
He's not on the list.
No,
Well, too bad, isn't it?
we should have known.
Yeah,
Oh.
sorry, I wasn't up on that.
Oh, I am so sorry about that.
I was looking for.
It's one of those
Hillary
trick
Clinton is on your list,
questions.
though.
Yeah, that was a trick. Definitely a trick
Better
question.
throw that one out.
Okay. The next one. True equality means holding everyone accountable in the same way, regardless of race, gender, faith, ethnicity, or political ideology.
Thomas Sowell.
No, but he could have
No,
said it, though.
could have said that.
John F. Kennedy.
This is one that's going to, no. This one will be difficult because this person is not as well known as everybody else on the list. But I will give you a clue. She's a Fox News contributor.
Monica Crowley.
Got it. Two.
Never heard of her.
Patty. I hadn't
I-
really either.
yeah.
Yeah.
But then I recognized it after my wife
Yep.
reminded me. Okay.
Interesting.
Okay, everybody's
That
been
is,
waiting for
yeah.
this one now, especially Ron. So, if we lie to the government, it's a felony. But if they lie to us, it's just politics.
Ah,
Maybe.
Well, who'd you guess, Jerry?
Well, I guess Bill Murray. That's kind of a,
Got it. You're keeping score?
Oh, yes, I'm
Yes,
keeping
he's-
score. Patty's in the lead, 2-1,
Okay.
with one first guess.
Yeah, we got to count Bryant's, after all.
Well, I put it.
This
That's
wasn't
okay.
on camera.
That's okay.
That is kind of true, though, isn't it? I mean, politicians can say anything they want to us, but if you lie to them, you do a Martha Stewart and go to jail. Well, no, she went to jail for lying to the FBI.
Well, only if you lie to them under oath would you be put, would that be a felony?
But they don't take oaths.
Well, it depends on, if you're talking about a congressional hearing, if they're under oath, then they would be committing a crime. If they're, you could lie to a politician.
So as far as Bill Murray is concerned, this is a joke.
No. Why? No, I don't think that that's
Well,
a
he's a
joke.
comedian.
I think a lot of people feel that way.
Why is it, whenever there's a big problem, the solution to it is a congressional or a Senate hearing or investigation.
It gives them an opportunity to make
And-
campaign speeches.
Yeah.
But then
Exactly.
we don't, if something goes wrong, why isn't there a citizens hearing on some of the stuff that goes on in our
Well, if you watched
legislative
the
bodies?
hearings yesterday,
I did.
and many of the questions weren't questions. They were reading a
yeah.
prepared statement
Yes.
Yeah.
to the gentleman, and
And say yes or no, don't elaborate.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, here's one. I think you'll probably get this one. There is no evidence from decades of research surveys that public opinion in the aggregate is more extreme now than in the past.
Pew Research.
Pew Research.
I haven't finished yet.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
But what has, well,
Thank
now
you.
I'll finish.
So we split that point.
Okay, but what has changed, and pretty dramatically, is the growing trending of people to sort themselves into political parties based on ideological differences. And you're right, it's Pew
Yeah,
Research,
sounds-
but it was no particular person.
Yeah.
But I've got a question about that. When you look at the conflict and the differences of opinion, is it really ideological or is it personality? I mean, why do so many people, do people really hate the idea of growing the economy and through tax cuts for corporations?
Look at the popularity of all the magazines you see in the supermarket. It's personal. People respond to personality, and whether they like or Jack, I don't think it's ideology at all, really. Mostly.
Well,
Mostly.
I would tend to disagree just a little bit, only because, in your example, as far as taxes and whether ideologically, many people don't believe in the trickle-down theory of economics. So they are against the setup and giving the tax breaks to corporations because they do not feel that it will trickle down and grow the economy. So that's,
But it
Well,
always
yeah,
has.
no, well, it actually hasn't worked in the past. So
I don't
Yeah.
think there are many people out there today that really understand economics.
Well,
I
that's
don't-
true, too.
I don't think they really take the time to get into the meat of a issue. So they tend to drift towards personality. Because when you can have a Hollywood actress who has no idea what they're discussing and throws out some sort of canned little, snippet about, how the rich are getting rich and this, that, or the other as she sits in a $5 million, Fifth Avenue penthouse, people follow that. Twitter is probably a very good indicator of individuals' responses, and those types of little statements get many, many likes, they get many, many retweets. So I believe that, in the absence of real study, of understanding what the issues are and trying to come to some consensus, people just throw themselves into personality. So if Alec Baldwin says something, or if Chelsea Handler says something, or Amy Schumer, or you name the Hollywood person, and they identify with that person, so that must be right, even though they're most of the time they don't know what they're talking
of
about.
course, you're making the assumption that none of those people have any intelligence or haven't researched any of it, and very honestly, in some cases, they've done more than many of the politicians have to actually look into the details.
Yeah, but the answers that they're giving are so,
But again,
some answers, you can't answer the question. I mean, I understand the argument about trickle down. I understand that where some people would feel that, but by and large, most people don't understand enough about economics, or they don't care to. All they attach themselves to is a little snippet, trickle down.
well, it might also come down to just our bias in our politics. We tend to believe one person over the other. If they're the Democrat, then yes, the liberal's going to.
Well,
believe
ideology is
anything they say.
important too. I have to
Yeah.
agree with that. Look at the Alabama thing, where people said, "Well, we don't really care what Roy Moore is.
Did.
We don't want a Democrat," And another person, you look at either I don't do Twitter, but Facebook. People say, "No, I'm not going to vote for a baby killer and a Democrat," because he was pro-choice. So things like that happen, and it gets identified with the individual, but there's some ideology behind it in a lot of cases.
Maybe a combination of all of it.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm just going based on what I see on Facebook from some of my friends. They just hate him because he's a racist, a misogynist, and the homophobe, all that stuff. And they just take that to the bank and hate him for it. But anyway,
Might be.
here's one from somebody whose name has already been mentioned. What my political views or my constitutional views are just doesn't matter.
Elena Kagan.
Oh, Patty's ahead with 3.
Nice.
Well, and the only reason I say that is because as a Supreme Court justice,
Yeah.
Right.
then she has to actually present that neutral position.
Sure glad it wasn't Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Well, yes, and she was summarily
She should have been.
reprimanded for that.
She should have been.
What did she say?
I forget what the issue was.
She
came
went
out
on that
an
interview and basically said that her husband, and they had talked about when would be the time to move out of the country. When does it get so bad politically for us that it's time to move? And in this interview, I can't remember who it was with, but she basically came out and said that they had to revisit several cases that were very conservative, that were already decided, and also if Trump was elected, it would be time to move. And so that splashed all over, and
My favorite quote of hers, somebody asked her a question about a certain event, and she said, "Well, I wasn't entirely sober at the time."
at least she's honest.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one. The most fundamental fact about the ideas of the left is that they do not work.
Thomas Sowell.
Therefore, we should not be surprised to find the left concentrated in institutions where ideas do not have to work in order to survive. Yeah, sorry, we already got it. Thomas Sowell. What institutions do you think he's talking about?
It's interesting because when we got the list of names, I didn't recognize that name. I really
I'm
did
not
not
surprised.
recognize. But again, he is a conservative, he's an economist, and not somebody that I was actually familiar with.
Wow.
I think he's probably talking about colleges and universities, possibly.
In government.
Yeah.
And that brings to mind, you struggle with what is really if you get right down to the foundation of the difference between a conservative and let's say a liberal or progressive approach. And I think that it's gotten, that I've concluded, or I'm getting close to concluding, it's a difference in inductive or deductive reasoning. And a conservative person, a conservative point of view is that this is what's worked. And so let's do it again. Or let's continue along these principles. And then a liberal is more of an inductive thinking, well, this and this and this, and then this should be the outcome. More not based on experience, but based upon, I think this is the way it would work if we did this. If this, then what? Rather than based on an experimentation or an experiential thing.
On the other hand, John Casey keeps cutting taxes in Ohio, and we're going down the tubes.
Well,
We're going down the tube, in Ohio?
Oh boy.
Are we really?
Yeah, I think
You know,
we made some. I might not agree everything with John Kasich, but we have been making great strides in maintaining a base. It's unfortunate that we find ourselves geographically in a part of the country that most people, when they have an opportunity to leave, they leave because of days like today, snow, weather, and all that kind of stuff. So when an individual decides to retire and take their pocketbook with them, they go to states that don't have a state tax. They don't have state taxes. They go to Florida, Texas, Arizona. Parts of Nevada are becoming very popular. Parts of southern Utah are becoming very popular because of the moderate weather, the tax, sort of the tax issues there, and so we're fighting an uphill battle in Ohio.
With that migration to those states that don't have state taxes, are any of them running into difficulties with their budgets because of this influx of people coming into the state? Does anyone
don't
know?
know. I don't know.
I'm just curious.
I think they tax them at different ways.
More user type taxes.
Right.
Visibly
Right.
tax them.
Okay.
Right.
And I want, that movement out, Brian, is an interesting topic. That what responsibility do we have who have made our living and had the state where we live in support us, and then we get to the point where, well, we're retired, we're out of here. And you think of the vacuum that leaves in leadership roles in service organizations, in community organizations, school boards, everything like that. The people that have had the experience and so forth just kind of abandon it, and they're gone. And it leaves that vacuum. It is I think that's...
I don't know. I went the other way. I retired back here.
Yeah, well, I mean...
Of course, Connecticut was probably worse.
Right.
Yeah, it was a step up.
Weather-wise.
But it is.
It went
I
from a
mean,
very
I was
high
talking
tax
to
state of-
somebody...
No offense to anyone from Connecticut.
I was talking to somebody from West Akron, and it was about not that this is so momentous, but it was at their country club, and they're there, and half the people are gone half the year, and then in the summer they come back and they start griping about stuff that the people back here have decided to do. And this guy said, "Look, if you want to have input on this, you stick around."
Right.
But on the flip of that is that it does leave leadership and body vacuums for service.
That's been true in every organization I've ever been a part of.
Is that right?
The people that don't come to the meetings are the ones that have the best gripes.
Right. Yeah, that's
I don't
right.
want to provide any solutions.
Yeah.
Well, that's
But
why
anyway.
God created climate change. Will bring them all back.
Well, when you look at some of the desirous climate states, Florida is so crowded you can hardly get around from 1st of February through whatever. I mean, it's like you can't go any place.
Yeah.
The roads are so crowded.
California.
I don't know if I'm
Boy.
looking, how many people are looking to move there.
My second son
right
just
now.
moved to Arizona.
And,
Well, and there's the point right there is that, the folks that have lived in California have seen their home prices practically double over the time period that they've owned them, whether it's 20
Right
years or
before they
25
burned
years. Right, well, exactly. They moved to Arizona, they moved to Las Vegas, they moved to St. George, Utah, and they buy a mansion. And they're loving it because, their pension and their income goes a lot farther in Arizona or a lot farther in Vegas.
Well, I know folks who were in Connecticut who moved to Pennsylvania for those reasons.
Well, sure. Well, sure.
Heck of a lot
And you have people that migrate. So, we have to compete. And I think that's the message that people need to get is that as a state, we need to compete. And it's not, it's not dire, but we have to be cognizant of that. Amazon is probably not going to come to Ohio and put in this fulfillment center that they're, this several 100,000 square foot. I don't know how large it is but it's huge. They're going to hire thousands of people. I don't know. I didn't see any cities from Ohio in the
Was that the
in the
company
race.
where the cities were? The one town said we'll change the
Sure.
name.
Yeah. Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah, change the
Yeah.
name of our town to Amazon if you'll come here.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we ought to open a training center for training people to operate drones. Then they'd like it. Anyway. The next one. The most perfect political community is one in which the middle class is in control and outnumber both other classes.
Disraeli?
Maybe Bernie,
No.
Bernie Sanders.
Aristotle.
Got it.
Hey,
Aristotle. Interesting.
It is. I had to think. I think Aristotle was a lot smarter than me, but I wouldn't have said that. The middle class has to outnumber. Well, you know what? When you think about it, as much as I have a problem with union excesses, this country was a lot more successful when we had a large middle class that was being supported by big unions and major manufacturers. Where a person with no skills whatever could go into a company, train for 10 days, and make enough money to buy a home and a boat and take vacations and get 6 weeks vacations and all that. But then again, world competition started. That was okay after World War II. And for a number of years, the productive capacity just wasn't outside the U.S. But when it became that way, the middle class started to shrink. That and the northern manufacturing facilities became obsolete. And
Cheaper to build elsewhere.
yes, so we built into a state that had a right to work law. Like South Carolina is a primary example.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
They all moved there. And then Indiana is now attracting a lot of things. Ohio is going to continue to suffer until we pass a right to work law, which will
yeah,
probably not happen in Ohio.
I would hope not.
I know.
I-
But you'd rather go down the tubes than the.
No, I just think that it produces too many cases where, yes, you have a job, but it's not a living wage. And, you know, there's a reason that we don't have right to work laws here, but that's a topic for another day.
I know. But
Yeah.
it's a low-paid job or no job. Anyway, that was okay. We got that. Aristotle. There is no act of treachery or meanness of which a political party is not capable.
Thomas Jefferson.
For in politics there is no honor.
Thomas Jefferson.
No.
No.
Lincoln Steffens.
Yeah, I don't know who that person is.
No.
No? Okay.
Go ahead.
Disraeli.
There's Benjamin Disraeli.
Disraeli?
Wrong
Okay.
that
I
one.
don't
I have
know.
no idea.
I'm not sure who that person is. But.
Well, he was a
You don't know
British
Benjamin?
prime minister,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Right.
Oh,
But
Disraeli.
between the wars or
I think it was
after-
between the wars.
or after Second
It
World
was,
War.
it was in the
Wasn't
30s.
after
Great
Second World War.
orator. Yeah. He's,
It was early on.
Yeah, it's before my time.
and it's not before mine. Excuse me.
Maybe I should read up on him.
The educated citizen has an obligation to uphold the law. This is the obligation of every citizen, but the educated citizen has a special responsibility by the virtue of his greater understanding.
Thomas Jefferson.
No.
Oh, that sounds like Thomas
Okay, then I'll say
Jefferson.
Lincoln
It does,
Steffens.
No.
John Kennedy. John F. Kennedy.
Kennedy.
That was the
See, he sounds more like a conservative.
Oh, he definitely was. Well, he was
You
a
know?
classical liberal, which is
Well, yeah. I mean,
same as
you pull some
Reagan.
quotes from John F. Kennedy. Trust me.
Oh,
He's going
absolutely.
to set some people's hair on fire today because he was very. When it came, I mean, he cut taxes, and the economy boomed.
there are two great thinkers in this country that we are pretty much ignored right now, and John Kennedy's one of them, and Martin Luther King Jr. is the other. We kind of ignored most of his lessons.
Yeah.
But Kennedy said a lot of things that were pretty hard to ignore. Okay. What is, give me a definition for the word panacea.
Panacea? A remedy.
Cure-all.
Cure-all, a remedy that suits everything.
Okay.
It's like a fad.
The first panacea for a mismanaged nation is inflation of the currency. The second is war. Both bring temporary prosperity, both bring permanent ruin, but both are the refuge of the political and economic opportunists.
It's either Steffens or Hemingway.
Oh, Hemingway, we'll give you that.
Yeah.
even though-
Hemingway.
Multiple
sounded more like
choice.
Hemingway.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Boy, what was that again, John? That's a great quote.
The first panacea for a mismanaged
Sounded
nation
like a
is
writer.
inflation of the currency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second is war. Both bring temporary prosperity, both bring permanent ruin, but both are the refuge of political and economic opportunists.
Well, and Hemingway had spent so much time, you know,
Spain.
yeah,
Yeah,
during the Civil War.
Yeah.
During what?
Wasn't he in Spain during the
I think
Yeah,
it was
that's
the Spanish
right.
Civil
Civil
War.
War,
He
yeah.
might have
Yeah.
taken part in it.
Yeah.
I think.
Yes.
Yeah. But you look at, you know, why every time, or occasionally you read in the newspapers that the Fed is so concerned that inflation is so low. Because we're not having inflation, so it'll be harder to pay back all the debt. They want inflation because then 20 years or 15 years from now, they can pay it back with cheap money.
Yeah.
So they're dependent on it.
Yep.
And the debt continues to grow.
Right, and nobody's talking about the debt.
Well,
Yeah, and that's so interesting.
Nobody
because
talks about
the
it.
entire time Obama was in.
Yeah.
That was the big thing,
Yeah.
and now
Yeah.
nobody seems to care
No.
about the debt.
Yeah.
Which is
That'll be $1 trillion, or it could be
Even
3
Paul
more.
Ryan reversed
yeah.
on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, we got time for at least one more.
Oh boy.
okay.
If our political leaders are to be always a lot of political merchants, that's the way he said it, they will supply any demand we create. All we have to do is to establish a demand for good government.
Oh, that could be Steffens.
You've got it.
Oh,
I knew eventually.
He had
Where's
to
the
come-
Thomas Jefferson
I'm
quote?
listening to. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'd like to tell our audience that 2 weeks from today, we will not be having our discussion panel. Our next one will be on January the 11th. So everyone, please have a happy holiday.
Or a Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Well,